In July 2021, 23-year-old Chandler Halder walked into a Wisconsin police station to report his parents, Bart and Krista, missing. From the moment detectives begin recording, Chandler appears to be the ideal witness. He never requests a lawyer. Instead, he volunteers a microscopic minute-by-minute breakdown of his entire weekend. But his physical behavior sits at odds with his willingness to talk. While he claims to be a desperate son trying to help, he speaks at a labored pace, frequently pausing to stare blankly at the floor. This creates a unique problem for the detectives. When a suspect provides a relentless stream of mundane information, the challenge is filtering the signal from the noise. Chandler is using volume as a tactical diversion. By weaponizing extreme detail, he attempts to bury the few critical facts of the case under a mountain of irrelevance. To understand Chandler, investigators first have to identify his baseline. His slow, disconnected delivery is an example of emotional cutoff, a state where a suspect suppresses intense internal stress to maintain control of their performance. He frequently rubs his face. This is a self-soothing behavior where physical pressure provides comfort while his arm serves as a subconscious barrier between himself and the detectives. His eye contact follows a specific pattern. He stares at the floor while constructing his narrative, then locks eyes with the detectives for several seconds to gauge if they are believing the story he just told. Before the police can challenge his timeline, Chandler introduces a preemptive defense. He tells them he recently fell down a flight of wooden stairs, resulting in a severe concussion and permanent nerve damage. This lie serves a functional purpose. By establishing a traumatic brain injury, Chandler builds a psychological buffer. Any future contradictions or holes in his story can be blamed on medical confusion rather than deception. The faked injury provides him with a permanent excuse for the inconsistencies the detectives are about to find. Chandler's most elaborate story involves breaking a fireplace glass and slicing his big toe. It is a story designed to explain away a very specific type of evidence. He provides a dense log of the cleanup. He describes the exact size of the blood pools, grabbing paper towels, borrowing a Swiffer from his girlfriend, and using hydrogen peroxide to scrub the kitchen tiles. Truthful people generally focus on the central event of a memory. Deceptive people often do the opposite, over-explaining the mundane because those are the only parts of the story they feel safe discussing. This story was a calculated response to a looming problem. Chandler knew that investigators would eventually find traces of human blood on his basement floor, and he needed a reason for it to be there. The detectives eventually moved to the Reed technique, abruptly cutting Chandler off. They stop the flow of details and tell him directly that they know he is lying and that his parents are dead. The effect on Chandler is immediate. He stops talking, his posture shifts backward, and he anchors himself as far from the detectives as possible. When the detectives broke his narrative control, his sense of safety vanished. He immediately dropped the act and invoked his right to counsel. The interrogation was only the final layer of Chandler's deceptions. He had spent years lying about his life, fabricating a college degree, and even convincing his family he had a job waiting for him at SpaceX. When his father began uncovering the truth about his education, Chandler murdered both of his parents and scattered their dismembered remains in remote wooded areas across the state. Every aspect of his life was a facade, from the career he didn't have to the injury he never suffered. He believed that by layering his lies with trivial, mundane details, he could create a shield that would withstand police scrutiny. In behavioral analysis, this level of specificity often serves as a signal for investigators. When a suspect provides too much trivial detail, they are usually attempting to manufacture the natural texture of a truthful memory. In an interrogation, a liar's greatest vulnerability is the very thing they use for protection. The details they choose to explain eventually become the evidence of their own deception.